Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's review, we are taking a look at the Detour from MVP. Let's jump on in like we normally do by taking a look at the profile and the feel of the Detour. Now, as with most MVP discs, the Detour has that very slender profile and a very flat flight plate. If you like shallow feeling discs, this is definitely a mid-range you want to check out. However, just be warned that with that slender feel, there is a chance for some early releases, so something that you do have to get used to. By the way, if you want to try the Detour for yourself, be sure to visit GreatLakesDisc.com. Use that promo code Lefty at checkout. That way, you save 10%. Let's get back to the video. And as always, I greatly appreciate the support. Thank you all so much for supporting Cheating Lefty Disc Golf. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the flight numbers of the Detour. Speed 5, glide 5, turn -2 in a fade of 1. This is a very easy to throw mid-range. In fact, I'm going to let you know why I think that the Detour may be the best mid-range on the market at the moment. Yes, even better for me than the Pathfinder. As you know, I absolutely loved the Pathfinder last year. Sorry, Pathfinder, the Detour has taken that spot. This also might just be one of the greatest tunnel and gap hitting mid-ranges of all time. Once you learn exactly what angle of hyzer to put this on with your arm speed, this is going to be a tunnel and gap hitting machine. When you throw it on a hyzer, you're going to get a flip up to flat. It'll try to ride very straight, then just at the very end, it'll have the smallest amount of fade at the very end. This does not have a lot of good stability at the end of the flight. So when you get it on an anhyzer angle, it's not going to fight itself out. It is just going to hold the angle that you put it on. So that means you're going to get a lot of versatility out of the Detour just because it can hit so many different shots. Now, it's not going to hold hyzers very well as it will flip up to flat, so you do have to power down and give it a little bit more angle if you want it to hold a hyzer, at least like an arcing hyzer or spike hyzer, which also means it's not the best in the wind either. But if you're looking for something on the very straight or stable side to understable side of the spectrum, that is what the Detour is going to excel at. For again, hyzer flipping, you'll get beautiful hyzer flips up to flat. Depending on the height and arm speed, you'll get a little bit of turn in the mid-flight before just that baby finish. And if you can learn that angle perfectly with your arm speed, you'll get these beautiful hyzer flip up to flats, just ride almost incredibly straight on a rope, making quick work of any narrow fairways that you come across. But it also has those turnover shots covered as well, that as long as you commit to the turnover and throw it on just the slightest of anhyzer angles, this is going to hold that turn all the way to the ground. It is not going to try to fight out of it towards the end of the flight. It is just going to hold that turn because it doesn't necessarily have great resistance to torque in the early part of the flight. And that's why it makes it such a perfect hyzer flipping disc. Now, because the Detour does not have the best resistance to torque in the early part of the flight, it doesn't make the best forehanding mid-range. However, if you're doing kind of standstill touch forehand shots, that's primarily what you're going to be using it for. Now for some pros and cons, starting with the cons. One thing that the Detour doesn't do very well, as I mentioned earlier, is hold a hyzer. When thrown on a slight hyzer, it's just going to flip up to flat, ride incredibly straight, and get almost no finish at all. Even when you do put it on more of a hyzer, it's going to stay going straight. Even though it's on a hyzer angle, it just pushes forward. You really have to power down and throw it high in order to get it to hold any kind of hyzer. So that begs the question, why is it good? Well, two words for you: tunnels and gaps. As I mentioned earlier, this is the king of hitting tunnels and gaps. If you have a tight fairway, just throw with the slightest of hyzers. Again, you have to figure out what works best for your arm speed, but the Detour is going to be the best mid-range out there for this style of shot. If you need something to flip up to flat, ride very straight, don't want to have any turn in that mid-flight, and then maybe just the slightest of hyzer back, that's what's good for. It doesn't matter if it's flat or downhill, the Detour will make short work of those gaps. And if you have fairways that start one way and then bend back the other, well, the Detour is an easy way to get those soft flexing shots. But then also, it holds those turnover lines incredibly well. You just have to make sure you commit to that line, and it's going to hold those turns. Now, the stock Detour was recently released, and how does it compare to the Gyropalooza run? Well, the Gyropalooza Detour, as you can see, it's pretty flexible in that Neutron plastic, but I do think that this stock run, it almost feels like Neutron soft. It has a lot more flexibility to it. But how does that affect the flight? Well, this is the regular Gyropalooza Detour. You can see hyzer flip up, rides with a little bit of turn, and then a baby hyzer at the end. The stock flips up to flat, little bit of turn in that mid-flight before just a baby hyzer back. So don't worry, stock Gyropalooza runs, they both fly almost identical. For the lefty lines, I wanted to compare the Detour against a few other mid-ranges from different manufacturers, ones that I felt are pretty close to the Detour. And I think the closest of them all is the Origin from Discmania in this Neo Plastic. They both hyzer flip very nice, get a little bit of turn in the mid-flight, and have a pretty comparable finish at the end. And then from Discraft, you have the Meteor, which in the early part of the flight does have the hyzer flip. Depending on how much height or how much power you give it, I do think that the Meteor is going to be a little bit on the flippier side and also maybe have a little bit less fade at the very end. But I do think the Detour, the Origin, these are so close together. If you like the Origin and you are, say, trying to find something in the MVP family, then you are going to want to try out the Detour. And if you're coming over from Discraft, the Detour is going to be very close to the Meteor, but you may just need to beat it in just a little bit to get it just right. Well, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, you need to do so. And if you haven't tried a Detour yet, you have to do so. These are fantastic mid-ranges. I cannot recommend it enough. It is perfect for players of all skill levels. It's just such a fantastic mid. I think everyone needs to have it in the bag. As always, please visit GreatLakesDisc.com and use that code LEFTY to save 10% and get your Detour today. I will put a link in the description below. Thank you all again for the wonderful support. I greatly appreciate it. And until the next one, keep banging chains.